Welcome into the Indiana men's soccer post-game recap after the Indiana Hoosiers could not get by the Wisconsin Badgers in the Big Ten Championship. They tied 0-0 at the end of extra time, and then in PKs lost 4-2. And now we left Westfield, a little cold, rainy, got to the friendly confines of Franklin Hall so we could discuss this. So Josh, tell me everything that happened in this match from your perspective.
Oh boy, well there was a lot that happened throughout this entire match. Indiana, they were kind of on the front foot most of this match, and Wisconsin was really trying to play on the counterattacks and just kind of kick it out into space and have Chris Mueller and Tom Barlow go run after it. And they were fairly successful at doing that. They had a good amount of chances in front of net, but it was really Indiana who had more chances at potentially getting one past Philip Schilling in goal, but he was just fantastic all game long in goal for Wisconsin. And just throughout the match, you could kind of sense Indiana maybe inching a little bit closer to a goal. You could maybe sense something coming, but then the rain started to come, and that really just kind of slopped up the entire game. Indiana couldn't really get good control of the ball. Wisconsin really couldn't do it either. And just in the end, I think it going to penalties kind of fit how the entire day went up at Grand Park.
Now, when you look at how Indiana performed, this is not the first time they've kind of fallen short, even though they've dominated and controlled possession and played their style. Is there anything you can point at that you could say Indiana did this wrong?
I think the biggest thing was probably just being a little bit too sloppy in the back, and I credit that maybe to a little bit to the field conditions and also a little bit to Wisconsin putting pressure on the Indiana backline. Timmy Mell, Andrew Gutman, Reese Buckmaster, and Grant Lillard were all under duress all afternoon long from that Wisconsin attack, and it's a very good Wisconsin attack. Chris Mueller is the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. He's a very good player for this Wisconsin team, but they were just a little bit sloppy. I think you could maybe credit that a little bit to the field conditions, maybe a little bit to just the conditions overall. It was a cold, rainy, wet day up at Grand Park, and I just think they kind of had an off day, but an off day where they don't give up a goal is still a pretty good day.
Now, this team is unbeaten on the season, but yet they lost the Big Ten regular season title. They lost in the postseason, coming in second once again. What do you think the mentality is of this team and their players and Coach Yeagley?
Well, I think everything now rides on the NCAA tournament. They couldn't get the Big Ten regular season title. They couldn't get the Big Ten tournament title. Those were two goals said by their captain, Grant Lillard, at the beginning of the season. They couldn't do either of those. So now everything rides on the NCAA tournament. I think they're still pretty confident about that. I think they also kind of know that this time of year they need to be playing their best soccer. And I think they did play that today at times, but it's tough to decide a championship on penalties. But going into the NCAA tournament, if they can't get a goal against a team, they're going to have to go to penalties once again. And it's just this time of year, you have to convert those penalties. Wisconsin did, and Indiana didn't.
Now, you mentioned those penalties. Something I always wanted to ask was, Sean Caulfield came into the game for those penalty kicks. Were you surprised by that decision rather than the star freshman goalkeeper Trey Muse?
I was a bit surprised, but after Todd Yeagley described his point of view after the match, it kind of made sense. Caulfield played very well in the spring season. He had a couple saves on penalty kicks there against Duke. And as the season wore on, you could just kind of tell Sean Caulfield was really close up there with Trey Muse. At the beginning of the year, Yeagley said it was a tough decision to go with Muse over Caulfield. Caulfield a little bit more experience here, redshirt sophomore, with Muse being just a freshman. But in the end, it didn't really matter because Wisconsin did what they needed to do with penalties, and it wouldn't have really mattered unless Caulfield made a save or made a mistake. But the Wisconsin penalties pretty much neutralized whichever goalkeeper was going to be in goal.
Well, lastly, tomorrow is decision day. We find out where Indiana slots in the tournament. Do you think this matchup against Wisconsin impacts their seeding?
I don't think it will matter much. As long as they get a top 4 seed, I think that's the biggest thing at this point, because a top 4 seed gives you home field advantage all the way until the College Cup if you make it that far. I don't think it's going to drop them out of the top 4. I still think they're going to be up there 2 or 3. They might drop behind maybe Stanford since they won the Pac-12. Wake Forest will probably be number 1, but Indiana will be, I think, in that 1 to 4, 2 to 4 range, I would say.
Well, that does it for us. Indiana, 0-0 draw, but yet they still seem to take the loss after that one. And we'll be back with more coverage and more content as Indiana moves forward in the NCAA tournament.